Social media is filled with stories of people having terrible experiences with different airlines. Today's guest found out that he was banned from flying Air Canada as he was trying to check in for his flight. But it's the reason he was banned that will blow your mind. Kyle, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Now, we always hear about airlines and shady practices. I mean, there's a whole TikTok thread of what Frontier are doing to their guests and hand luggage and all of that. I have to say, I haven't seen Air Canada in these threads before, but it seems that the post that you put up really did unleash something.
Yeah, I've gotten so many comments from, thousands and thousands of people. And I mean, it's a lot of support. And then there's also a lot of stories that people are telling me about their experiences. So yeah, it's quite shocking actually, just to realize how much things like this is actually happening.
We're going to get into what actually took place just recently, and then we're going to go back and talk about the incident that we think has caused all of this. But your first story, it has truly gone viral. It's got over 112,000 views, and it seems to keep growing because every time I go in there, there's more and more
Oh yeah.
views.
We're I'm for the whole thing of that I've done, I'm at 1.4 million views for the whole thing now. And literally thousands and thousands of comments and a lot of DMs too from tons of people.
What sort of level was your TikTok account at before this video was posted?
I made this one funny video, and people's because my TikTok was literally just for me, and I only just made stuff that I like to see, and I just want to swing lightsabers and have fun with my kids is pretty much what I was doing. And I just made one funny video, and it got a lot of views, and a lot of people followed me. But that was like the only thing. And then I did this, and yeah, it pretty much skyrocketed. So it was really incredible to see just how many people responded to that.
Did you think when you made it that it would have the impact that it's had?
To be honest, I literally made it just because I was upset, and I didn't know what else to do. And sometimes if you even go look through my TikToks and stuff, like I, if something does something, that's for me to just kind of get it out of me, and that's kind of where that went from. I was just upset and I didn't know what to do.
Okay, so let's get to what happened last week. I'll
Okay.
let you tell the story.
My girlfriend and I, we were heading to a comic convention in Moncton, New Brunswick, and it turned out the only airline to fly there was Air Canada. So months ago, we booked our tickets, we paid all our money, we jumped through all their little hoops just to make sure that we get there, and we pack our bags, we show up at the airport, and my girlfriend, she shows her ID and she just walks straight through. And then, but I'm up next and I put my driver's license down, and the girl starts clicking on the computer, and then she goes, "Do you have a second ID?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then I give her my BC ID. And then she goes, "Do you have a third ID?" And I'm like, "What do you, yeah, here's my passport." And she goes click, and then she goes, "Well, what's your email address?" And I'm like, "Okay, this is my email address." And about 5 minutes after that, like she just kept clicking away and everything like that. But about 5 minutes after that, two official, very well dressed Air Canada workers came out. They looked like supervisors, and they just came out from this little back office that was behind us. And they walked around the counter and they stood directly in front of me. And it was a male and a female, and they were younger. And they just said to me, they're like, "We're really sorry, but we're not going to allow you to get on the airplane today." And I go, "What are you talking about?" And they go, "Security will not allow you on the airplane." And I go, "Why? Like, what happened? Like, what did I do?" And they're like, "We can't tell you what you did, or we can't tell you what the problem is." And I go, and my girlfriend now, she's turned around, she's starting to come back, and she's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "I'm sorry, but your partner is not going to be allowed to get on the airplane today." And I go, "Well, you have to tell me why." And they go, we're not going to tell you. And here's a card. And if you take this card and there's a phone number on it, and you phone that number, and they'll be able to tell you why. And I was about to start getting upset, and then my girlfriend was just like, okay, let's just go and figure this out because we don't have time for this. And so I was like, okay, so we walked away, and as we walked away, I was like, you know what? The only thing that I ever done on an aircraft was really, I told on one of your male employees for groping a woman while she fell asleep, and I said it loud enough that all the people behind me heard. And they, they're all kind of looking at each other, and I go, that's the only thing I ever done. And then I walked away. And actually, I said to them before I walked away, I was like, the only thing I know what to do now is make a TikTok, because I think that that's going to be the only way that I'm going to be able to express myself. And my girlfriend, rushes me away, and I look at the card, and on the card there's no phone number. The only phone number was for a baggage claim, and I'm like, what do I do with this? So and now I'm in panic mode because we had to get to the Comic-Con. I mean, we were working for it, and we just said, okay, let's go check out WestJet. And we walked over to WestJet, and I told him exactly what happened. And the girl was like, or actually the guy, sorry, was like, no worries. We have a plane leaving in literally 30 minutes, but we're going to rush you through. We're going to get everything done for you, and we'll get you on that airplane. And it was the last 2 seats on the airplane. And we got on it, but they don't go to Moncton. So we ended up having to fly to Halifax, and then drive from Halifax to Moncton. We had to rent a car, all this stuff, all because of Air Canada. And so while I was actually walking to WestJet, I stopped, I'm in the airport, and that's when I made the video. And I just hit the send, and I, did all the WestJet stuff. I get on the airplane, and we landed in Calgary, and I didn't even check my TikTok at this point. I was just like, whatever. And we flew all the way to Halifax. And when we got to Halifax, I look at my phone, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got like 50,000 views on this thing. And people are just commenting, and I'm, what do I do? So I figured, all right, well, I'll make a TikTok saying what the airplane number that I was on and the date that I'd flown. And I was just like, this is the plane, this is everything, and if CBC can help me find this person that was sitting next to me, that'd be great. And that one started blowing up by the time that I got to Moncton after driving. And yeah, it just kind of blew my mind. So I tried to make sure that I was, liking comments or responding to them and things like that. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. And I didn't really expect that at all.
That leaves a space for so many questions. When they said you weren't boarding, was that happening at the check-in process or as you were trying to board the flight?
It happened right when we were trying to do the check-in process. Yeah.
Okay. And I know that on the day they didn't tell you what it was, and you obviously have your suspicions, and we're going to get into that. But since all of that happened, because it has been about a week as we're filming this, have you spoken to anybody at Air Canada who has been able to shed light or
Nobody officially has contacted me in any manner. I haven't received my money back for it. I was told that by friends and family that, hey, they're supposed to pay for the car and everything too. I haven't heard anything back. We filled out all their paperwork. We've tried contacting them a couple times over the phone, nothing. And absolutely nothing from Air Canada.
if they know that your email address is associated with you, and part of that was them saying you're not going to be boarding the flight, for me, I struggle to understand how they didn't know that when you were going through the booking process, in terms of sometimes when you're booking a flight, if there's an issue, they won't allow you, from airlines that I've experienced, won't allow you to complete the sale. They'll tell you you either have to try again later or call the airline and speak to an actual human, rather than take your money and allow you to think that you've got this flight.
Oh, get this. I believe somewhere along the line, they sent me an email asking if I wanted to upgrade my seat for an extra cost. Yeah. Yeah, this was months ago.
And
Yeah.
you never received notification telling you that you had been banned from flying the airline?
No, none at all. None at all. It was like, I was a complete shock. I mean, you show up and we're there the 2 hours early, and that happened. So, yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back to December 2021. Was it?
Correct.
It was 21.
December,
Okay.
I believe it was December 20th, 2021. Yeah.
There you go. So December 20th, 2021, you're on an overnight flight.
Yes, it was AC 313
And what
from
do you,
Montreal to Vancouver. Because I had the layover flight. So I left from Halifax, stopped in Montreal, and it was the layover flight that I was doing from Montreal to Vancouver where this happened. And it was an overnight flight.
and what took place on that flight?
Okay, well, it was super late at night. They had already turned out all the lights. People are falling asleep and things like that. But me and the person beside me, the girl that was sitting directly beside me, her and I, we kind of struck up a conversation about Star Wars. It's I absolutely love it. So that's what we were talking about. And as we were talking, the male flight attendant walked all because we were at the very back of the airplane. I was sitting in 35F. There wasn't that many people in the back, so I kind of moved over to have that conversation with the girl. And so we're in the very back, and he walks all the way to the back. He does whatever he does in their little area there, and then he comes back and he just knelt down beside this lady. She was like a middle age, not middle age, but she was like maybe late 30s, early 40s, an Asian female, and he kneels down beside her, and she was like wearing a white sweater or something that was white, and he just starts rubbing her shoulder with the back of his hand, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe she ordered something and fell asleep or whatever, right? And so we keep talking, but then and I'm looking kind of like that, and so she's looking towards this way, and she can see the guy doing what he's doing, but I'm looking this way, and just by chance I just looked back, and his hand's now in the front, and he was rubbing her chest with the back of his hand, open palm like this, but it was over her breast, and he started and he went like that, and that's when I go, like, can I swear? Is it okay? I went,
Yeah,
what the?
go for it.
And as soon as I said that, his face just looks over at the two of us, and you could see it was complete horror in his face, and he just stood up, walked right to the front of the airplane, and about 4 or 5 minutes after that, a female flight attendant came back, and she's like, we've informed the pilot that you guys have been causing a disturbance, and we're gonna have to deal with that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And the girl sitting beside me, she goes, what are you talking about? We're not causing a disturbance. Like, we're talking about Star Wars. And I go, that guy was touching her, like he was touching her chest. And she goes, okay, you guys need to stop causing a disturbance, and we're not going to have any more conversation. And she just walked back up to the front, and two of us are like, what? And so now we're kind of like, oh, you piece of crap, right? So now we're just talking amongst each other like, holy crap, what the hell? And there was a girl that was sitting in the front that heard everything and saw, and so she saw the guy look over and what the heck, and took off. And even she said, like, you guys weren't causing any sort of disturbance. She's like, I was almost asleep. You guys were quiet. So it was, when I said, what the fuck are you doing? That's when she kind of perked up too. But then once the plane was done and everything, we go to get off, and you know how the pilot's standing at the front, and he kind of greets everybody on the way out. Hey, great flight, whatever. Well, I walk up to him, and he obviously they told him who I was, right? So when I got up to him, and I'm like, yeah, that guy was touching that girl in the chest, and she started walking out, and she because I'm standing there talking to him, and the girl had walked out, and it was me and the other witness that were talking to the pilot for a second, and he kind of did the same thing, like, look, we're gonna need you to get off the airplane, like we're done with you guys. So we walked off the airplane, and at first actually was when we stopped, the woman were like, that guy, he was like, she didn't speak English, so we're trying to like tell her, like, that guy was touching you, like, I guess we freaked her out or something, because she just kind of like, and just walked away. And that's when I told the security guard, and I'm like, that guy was touching her. Like, you need to deal with this. And the security guard did the same thing. Yeah, okay, just come on, let's get moving, sort of thing. Like, we'll deal with it. And I'm like, okay, great. And me and the other passenger, we just talked about it the whole time that we left, and it was just, we couldn't believe it. So that was it. But after that, I got to be honest, and I feel bad about it. I really didn't think anything of it. I figured, okay, security officer knows, they're going to do something about it.
You're positive about what you saw.
I'm okay. I'm 100% positive. Like, I'm a skydiver. I'm a scuba diver. Like the things that I do, you gotta be sure about yourself to be able to do these things. Um, I've never been one where it's like, if I see something and I'm not sure, you know what, I whatever, I'm not sure, because I mean, I live downtown Vancouver. Sometimes you see drug deals, sometimes you don't know what you're seeing. You know what I mean? So that's the case. When I saw what I saw, I I know exactly what I saw. When I was a kid, I was actually almost taken, and my sister saved me. So I'm very particular about those sort of things. Plus, I have daughters, man.
So one of the things that I saw in the comments on all of your videos, because there is a series of them now,
yes,
just addressing certain comments and things like that. One of the things that made me shake my head, somebody in the comments had said, why didn't you film it? And I thought, we're forever seeing videos where people have filmed incidents. And I actually think filming things is really important, especially if other people are jumping in to try and deal with whatever the situation is. There is a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen. But
yeah,
you're sitting here saying that you intervened, you tried to defend this woman or at
yeah.
least stop the altercation, and you're trying to take it further. And then people are getting upset that it wasn't filmed.
To me, look, man, I'm or sorry, look, I'm 40 years old. Like, I'm not one that thinks about. I remember the internet coming out in school. I'm not one that's gonna think about pulling out a camera and film something that's bad. I'm going to react. I have over 26 citizens arrest under my belt. Um, I'm and that was working through different jobs and stuff like that. Plus, also just being in the right place at the right time for some things. So for me, it's react, deal with it, and and then have that person, either taken by police or whatever. But in this instance, it was just so shocking because it's a flight attendant. It's the middle of the night on an airplane, and I'm I'm seeing this happen. It was just more reactive than anything. Like, what are you doing? I'm not gonna say it. What are you doing? Like, I don't think like that. Me, it's just deal with the thing.
Did you ever call Air Canada after the fact and make an official report or try to follow up in a more official capacity?
No, and that's where I say, like, that was my bad. I honestly figured that you tell the security officer they're going to deal with it. They're I to be realistic with you, I honestly thought there was, cameras on airplanes. I mean, there's no, I don't know why there's not. So I figured they'd just go back, look at film or whatever. Security guy would be like, all right, we can deal with this, because they'd look at the film, see where she was sitting, see what happened, and be like, all right, deduction's been made. Let's deal with this guy. But no, that was a bad of mine, even of the other passenger, because we talked about it even after the fact, but we didn't follow through with anything like that. It was just so shocking.
I never thought about the whole camera thing being on planes because I think we're so used to having cameras everywhere. I've never
Yeah,
thought about it, but that's actually a really good point.
yeah. I don't know why they're not on there, because after I posted that video and the thousands of comments that I've gotten, I mean, come on. I've heard horror stories of like of men masturbating in front of women and everything, and nothing being done.
Specifically on Air Canada or just on any
I
sort
can
of
send you this
airline?
one too, but there was one where a guy was masturbating, and he was an employee of an airline, and he was masturbating in front of a 19-year-old girl in the freaking terminal, and there was a police report and everything on this one, and they did nothing. They literally swept it under the rug, and she had her flight canceled, and they charged her for the flight, and they still haven't paid her back, and she's like, this was years ago. So I don't think I'm getting my money back. Yeah, I'll send you the message that she sent me. Yeah.
Please do that.
Yeah, thank you.
We live in a time where we're meant to believe women. And I too have been the victim of sexual assault when I was younger. And I see in the comments all the time people saying, why didn't you speak up? I mean, I haven't talked that publicly about it, but whenever a woman comes out and tells her story, the first thing people do is they say, why didn't you say it earlier? Why didn't you do this or do that? And this is how it's meant to be. But the reality is, women, for the most part, aren't protected. And I understand there are people that make terrible claims about people for nefarious reasons. Those people exist. But I do think that every woman should at least be heard, taken seriously, and then you look at the merits of what is being said. That just
yeah. I mean, I have my daughter, and I really understand that, where I grew up with a family of all women. I was the only guy, really, and until my mom met my stepfather. So yeah, I grew up with all women, and I mean, I've heard things, and like stuff that my family is, they don't want to tell me because they know that I'll get mad, right? And if I know the guy, I'm going to be really mad. You know what I mean? So they've kept, and it's like, well, why? Like, why are you afraid to speak out? And like, you shouldn't be. And I teach my kids that you have to speak out. You have to. If you're getting bullied, speak out. If somebody touches you, speak out. Like, you tell me and I will believe you if there's nothing else, and I'll help you deal with it.
I will say, every man that I know that grew up in a household filled with women, they are some of the best men I've ever met in my life, because they do spend a lot of their years, especially younger years, listening to the women around him talk about their experiences and everything that they encounter. And I think it gives you guys just a deeper understanding of women, and I think more empathy than men that grow up in male households have. And that's not a criticism of either side. It's just a reality of what I've noticed. Getting to the response that you got through TikTok, we're going to get to one individual in a minute, but for the most part, have the comments been supportive, or have people sort of come for you, or is it more just people sharing their experiences?
Actually, it's been, I would say, in all honesty, probably like 90% have been absolutely supportive. 8% have been stories, and then 2% have been, just trolls. They're always out there. Yeah.
And I do think,
try to shrug it off. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, you are who you are. That's, yeah.
And I do think that you could have a video of the most beautiful moment and the trolls would be there to find something
They
wrong
did that
in
on
anything.
Yeah, they
Right?
did that on TikTok. I made a little video of my youngest daughter and I just swinging lightsabers around, and some guy was like, "You guys are gay." Like, it's my daughter. Like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
There was one person in particular that really stuck out, Dirk de Jager. I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's how we pronounce his name. And
that's like,
And I'll say from the get-go, one of the first questions I asked you when we were speaking about setting this whole meeting up, was he the flight attendant or was he the pilot? And you said absolutely not. From
yeah,
what we've seen of his profile.
yeah. I can undoubtedly say that. Like, I know faces extremely well. When I was doing certain jobs, I would study books of faces of criminals and things like that. So yeah, no, like, I may forget names. I'm horrible with names, but I'll never forget a face. And I know exactly what that flight attendant looks like, and I know exactly what that pilot looked like. The security officer, I can't, like, I didn't pay much attention to him because I was already so upset and walking out. But that pilot and that flight attendant, yeah, I can pick them out.
So Dirk seems to be someone who works for Air Canada. From the comments that we've seen, that was my interpretation. I'm just curious as to what yours was.
Definitely my interpretation too. He must have had at least 100 of his own comments on there, and he was really defending Air Canada, and basically saying that they would never do anything like that, and I, like, this is not what we are about, and the integrity of our company, and he would use words like that. So for me, yeah, he came off as, either he worked there for sure, or he is a really good troll that's just out there to get comments or views on his own stuff. But the part that really makes me think that he is a worker there is because once that article for the Daily Dot came out, he wrote me and he's like, "Hey, that's not cool." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not the one that wrote the article, and I'm not the one that wrote what you said. Like, you dug your own hole, man. I like, why are you writing me about it?" And he's like, "Oh, well, can we just make peace with everything and let bygones be bygones, and let's really get down to the investigation of this and everything." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to talk to you. So I'm really sorry, man, for whatever you did, and the internet's an unforgiving place. So you're gonna have whatever's gonna happen to you." And then he deleted all of his comments. And but here's the worst part. I actually had a couple of girls write me that were like teenagers. I'll send you this stuff too. They were teenagers, and he started, or it's in the comments. Maybe I'll have to find it. But he was writing teenagers that were commenting on my stuff, and he was going into their TikTok accounts and then attacking them. And like, the guy's, I don't know. The guy is a piece of work as far as I'm concerned.
And anyone that goes into your videos will be able to see there are plenty of replies to him, but obviously, as you've said, his comments have been removed. So
Delete. I've got the one video where you can still go see his name and
yes,
see his original comment and judge for yourself. I mean,
yeah.
tell me the guy's not just an arrogant sexist, just kind of an asshole.
Well, he comes across as, I haven't met him, so I can't say definitively, but he comes
Yeah.
across as one of those people that would not believe someone that came and sort of said, "Hey, this is what happened to me."
Oh yeah, he kept saying that there's got to be your fault. You did something. You did something. And I'm like, I did do something. I told on that guy for touching that girl. Like, that's what I did, man.
The joys of social media. I think it has so many positive impacts, but there are the trolls, and we do see a side of humanity that is maybe not as great as what we would hope it would be, I guess.
Yeah.
So obviously the Daily Dot, you and I are speaking. Have you had any other media interest?
Not really, but I haven't, like, I've see, as I say, like, I just make my videos and kind of go from there. Like, I have written CBC, but nothing has been said yet back to me. I thought that, but I told them, I gave them all the information, so they're probably just investigating the heck out of it. Like you told me, it takes like 60 to 90 days to get the flight manifest.
Manifesto. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's what they're waiting for, and they'll come back and talk to me afterwards. But I've had tons of people, also saying, "Hey, look, CBC or CTV or Global News, like, you guys got to go into this too." So I've been, I like CBC just because I'm an old man, so I kind of sent them a bunch of stuff. But yeah, nothing back yet. But we'll see, right? So we'll see what happens.
I do know that you didn't do this for media attention, but for me, as soon as I saw it, I thought this is a story, because this is something that should be taken seriously by the airlines. And if it's not, that is the story in terms of Air Canada not even
Yeah.
investigating things. So to finish this up, I always like to have full transparency with my viewers. So I did reach out to Air Canada and I sent them a whole email and a list of questions. They don't have a number for the media department, so it was all done via email. So the questions that I put to them were, did the other female passenger who also witnessed the sexual assault get blackballed as well from flying Air Canada? Does Air Canada not take reports of sexual assault seriously? Was this incident ever investigated? Why is Air Canada blackballing people who try to report incidents of sexual assault? What is the reason Kyle was banned from flying with Air Canada? If someone is banned from flying your airline, why were they not notified, and why did Air Canada allow them to book the flight and take their money? Will Kyle be receiving a full refund on the tickets he booked and paid for? So I got a response just before we came to film this, and this is Air Canada's entire response. Hello, we do not share information about customers. We can tell you, however, we have no record of the alleged incident on the flight in December you reference. So they chose not to answer the question about whether or not they take claims of sexual assault seriously, whether they investigate these things.
They won't even answer that. You know, like that's Air Canada is, you know, I'll never fly them again. And people are like, oh, you should get, when you get, or you should try to get off the blacklist. And I'm like, you know, even if I get off the blacklist, I'll never fly them again anyway. So it doesn't matter. So, and it's for reasons like this. Like they won't answer anything. They chose to completely shut it down. And there's, you know, 3 people that know about this. I don't know what to say to Air Canada, and I don't know what to say about them other than you got to do something. You got to get on it somehow and change your policies. Do something. Put cameras on airplane. Do something to make sure that we know that we're safe, so that you don't have to have people like me yelling out on an airplane, "What the hell are you doing?" And then you know, get blacklisting customers. You know, like the whole thing is just like it's completely out there.
And I think at a minimum, train your staff to take these incidents and allegations seriously.
Yes, fully agreed. Fully agreed. I think every organization, everything out there should have some sort of policy to deal with these things, and not just some sort of policy, like have an actual policy. You know, like look at the Canadian hockey team that was completely accused, and how much that got swept under the rug and everything like that. You know, and now they're finally changing, but that's only because of so much media, you know, attacking that. I think this is just the start of hopefully a complete reform to air travel and the safety of women being on their airplanes, and men. You know, just the safety of everybody. Like, because of this, I would, you know how they allow your child to fly, and a stewardess can take your child and do that. Man, that one scares the heck out of me now. I'll never let my kid do that alone. I don't care what airline it is. I really like certain airlines, but I'm like, now it's just too. You get cameras on that thing, and maybe.
All I can ask of anybody watching this is please share this conversation far and wide, and let's expose Air Canada's practices. And hopefully they will come out and actually give a reasonable response to the greater public, especially to you. And hopefully this can be the beginning of change for all corporations to start paying attention to things like this, and not to say things in public or in press releases about what matters to them in terms of their principles, but actually change the behaviors.
I get it. You know, another thing that I just thought about is in that email, they're like, well, we have no record of the incident, but they're still not willing to say why I was blacklisted either. Like just, you know, something. And you're even asking about me personally. You know what I mean? And obviously, we're going to do an interview. You told them that. So
and I also gave them all the details. I had your full name in the email, the flight details. I detailed the incident. And that was all prior to the questions that I listed. So it's very clear we have been communicating, but at the very least, them not responding to questions about you personally, fair enough. But they could respond to their procedures and policies in regard to incidents, because I made a point of asking questions that weren't directly related to you, but policies and procedures. They've chosen to just disregard it. I understand. I'm an independent journalist. I'm not with one of the major networks, but they could respond to you because it's about you, and you don't have that either. So yeah, I think this is where they need to change their entire approach to sexual assaults, to people making complaints, especially ones that involve the harm of other people.
Yeah.
and it's time to level up.
Yeah. And another thing about Air Canada is like our government bailed them out, I think a few times now. But it's like we're bailing you out and you can't even protect people. You can't even answer questions. So we're gonna just give you money because I gave you money. So the government's giving you money. You're not giving the government their money back, and you're not giving me my money back, and that 19-year-old girl's not getting her money back. Like, so you're just gonna keep eating everybody's money, and just basically it's a F you. You do as you're either and you do as we say, or you don't fly anywhere. That's their policy.
I don't have words. It's so disturbing to me. Kyle, thank you so much for being so real and sharing your story initially on TikTok, but also being so open to talking to me and going through it all again so that we could sort of have it in a cohesive timeline so that people can watch it. Of course, everybody should head to your TikTok. I'll have the link below. They should go follow you, and especially everyone that wants an incredible lightsaber, you are the man to go to.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. And please keep me posted if anything changes with this. We'll keep covering the story.
Yeah, I'll stay in contact with you. And if I hear anything, I'll make sure that you hear it too. Okay.
So we are back because we have a little bit of an update. Kyle, you have actually heard back from Air Canada.
Yes, they've called me twice now, and we can go over the first phone call and then over the second phone call, definitely.
Okay, so you heard from them sort of right after we filmed, and then you heard from them again today. What was the first phone call that you received from them?
Well, okay, so here's how it worked. I don't really want to say the guy's name, but a gentleman from security had called me, and he said, "Hey, look, this is who I am. I'm trying to investigate this," and I didn't have the time right at the moment, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll give you a call back." Calls me back, and says his name again, and he goes, "So, I would like to go over, basically what happened. We saw your TikTok, and we want to try resolve this." And I go, "Okay, great. What do you have to say?" And I would like to know first, why was I banned from the airplane? Why am I blacklisted from flying? And he goes, "Well, that's one that I can tell you right now." And he goes, "Well, the reason is because uh, it's a mask problem. You refused to wear your medical mask, and it was during the pandemic." And at first, I was kind of shocked by what he said, but I was like, "Okay." And was there anything else, like anything about a disturbance or anything? And he's like, "No." And then I go, "Okay, so was there anything said about the sexual assault?" And he goes, "There was nothing about the sexual assault at all in the file." And so I'm going, "Oh my God, okay." So for one, I'm somebody that is for the masks. I have all of my vaccinations. I even had my kids wearing masks. Like, that one shocked me, but that's what he said. And then we discussed where seating plans were and all that, and where I sat, and he wasn't making any sense, but he did seem kind of genuine that he wanted to figure this out. But after the phone call today, I'm going. I I don't think that anymore. I don't trust what they're saying to me.
Before we get to the phone call today, so after the phone call where they were discussing, it was the fact that you wouldn't wear a mask. Did you refuse to wear a mask?
No, no, I even my fabric one I lost, and I asked them for a blue medical one before I even got on the airplane. Like, while I was in the airport, I'm like, I lost my mask. I people, as I was walking in, I probably left it in the Uber, and I get in there and I'm like, "Can I please have a mask?" And they gave me the medical one, and so that's what I walked through. And my girlfriend and I, or sorry, that was just me at this time, but I just went through and everything was fine.
So there was no conversation about a mask actually while boarding that aircraft or being on that flight.
This was during the time that if you were even in the airport and you weren't wearing a mask, there was a problem. So I had to wear a mask from the entire time that I went through the front doors all the way till I got to the airplane. It was said. The only time they said that you were allowed to pull it down was if you were eating. Now, I did have dinner on the airplane, and I pulled it down while I had dinner, but so did everybody else. And as soon as dinner was over, you put it back up.
When you get this first phone call and the security officer is explaining to you that the reason for being banned is because of your apparent refusal to wear a mask. Did he address the sexual assault allegations at all?
No, actually. I'm the one that actually said something first about it, and he explained to me that there's nothing on file about a sexual assault at all. And I'm like, well, so you're saying that about the mask? And I'm going, but they didn't say anything. And he reiterated that there is nothing in the file about a sexual assault at all. So I'm going, the pilot didn't say something. None of the flight attendants said anything. The security guard never said anything. And then he says to me, he goes, now just so you understand that there's, first he goes, and there's no victim here. That's probably why it's never been uh uh reported. And I'm going, but there was more than one person that's reporting this. I go, the victim didn't, but she didn't speak English, so how could she have known what we're saying? We were basically freaking out to her. Now he did say to me though, he goes, just so you know, there are tons of sexual assaults that happen in the airports and on aircrafts, and I'm like, what? And he goes, there are tons that happen, but there's usually a police report, there's a victim, and these sort of things. And I'm going, there's tons. At this point, still in my brain, I'm going, why don't you have a camera on the airplane?
It certainly makes your blood run cold. And as a woman who travels on her own, the thought of there being so many reports of sexual assault is truly a scary thing. At the end of that first phone call that you had with them, was there any decision made about whether you would be allowed to fly Air Canada moving forward?
He said that they were going to email me and send a letter to my home, and it would state whatever charges or whatever that they said the reason is, and then I could dispute it from there. And I was just like, and I said it to him right there. I go, even if I did dispute it, which I'm going to, but if you guys allow me back in airplanes, I'm not going to be comfortable. I'm not going to fly in airplanes.
And then we get to today. You heard from them again.
Yeah, and the funny part is he hasn't called me in forever. Then I made the TikTok about him calling me, and then all of a sudden I get a call literally like the day after or something like that. Okay, and it's him, and he starts talking about, well, I don't understand the seating. And so I start telling him about the seating again, and he goes, well, this is the type of airplane you were on. And he said one that had like a middle set of seats. And I'm going, no, there was 3 seats on the left in the aisle and 3 seats on the right. And he goes, but that's not the type of airplane that I have here on file. And I'm going, man, look, now I don't, like, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't believe anything or trust anything you're saying at this point. So I just said, this is the airplane that I was on. Here's the flight number. Here is this. You can go look it up. It shows you that the type of airplane that I was on is not the one that you're saying. And then I said again where everybody was sitting, and I was really particular, like, this is where people were sitting. And he goes, well, that makes more sense, because this isn't making sense over here. So I just got to investigate this some more. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're an idiot. And I didn't say that or anything, but that's what I'm thinking. And then he tells me that I'm going to be reimbursed for my tickets. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. But I go, well, what about the fact I had to spend extra for WestJet and I had to get the card? He goes, well, I don't have any say in that. That's going to have to go through customer service and everything. And I hope you filled out the form and all that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, we did. And then right after that, he just said that, oh, well, you're going to be unblacklisted. And I just reiterated to him, like, dude, I'm never going to fly Air Canada again. I don't care if you unblacklist me. I'm never flying you again.
For me, the takeaway from this is you get the first phone call where they tell you that it's an issue regarding masks. And you're telling me that there was no conversation or interaction around the mask issue. But when
Correct.
But when he calls you back, the fact that he's asking about seating arrangements and how everybody was positioned, that would tell me that it had nothing to do with masks and everything to do with the initial issue that you made your TikTok
Yeah.
about.
That makes a lot of sense because the mask thing wasn't even spoken about in the second call. And right at the end of it, he did say, he goes, and just so you know, I saw your latest TikTok and everything. And I said, yeah, man, I just told exactly what our conversation was about. And he goes, okay, yeah, no, I get that. I get that. Yeah. So they don't care about anything. They just care about the fact that TikToks are being made. And they have no backup for what they're saying. They don't even know what type of airplane I was on.
It's disturbing. I wish I had more to say, but I'm grateful that we had a chance before this interview goes live to actually catch up on the developments, because to me they
Yeah.
seem significant. Thank you for standing up when you saw something that you knew was wrong happening and trying to intervene. And thank you for having a voice about what Air Canada is doing and being so transparent with all of it.
Thank you for kind of sharing it too, because I just can't believe that a corporation kind of this big is able to get away with something like this. So thank you for being kind of a voice for it too.
And as I know you're traveling tomorrow,
Yep.
I hope it's safe travels, and I know it's not with Air Canada.
No, it's WestJet. WestJet all the way. Yeah. They even called me General Kenobi on my itinerary. So come on. Yeah.
That's a huge win for WestJet.
Yeah. 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 I love them all there.
Kyle, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So as this story goes live, there is one final update. I reached out to the person that Kyle has been dealing with at Air Canada. I explained who I was and asked them what was being done in relation to the alleged sexual assault that took place on the aircraft in December of 2021. The response I was given was that everything they're doing in regards to that incident, Kyle is aware of, and they are dealing directly with Kyle, and that there would be no comment. I accepted this answer, but said that I had one follow-up question. And I pointed out that they had acknowledged to me in the phone call that there was an assault that had taken place, or at least an incident, to which the person on the phone said yes. So my question was, well, then why was Kyle told that the reason for his ban on Air Canada was because of a mask issue? And the response I got was, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what's going on at Air Canada. What I can tell you is Kyle has been forthcoming with everything that I have asked him for in relation to the incident and everything that's gone on around this issue. I have reached out to Air Canada through multiple avenues, and each time they refuse to give me any sort of meaningful response, and certainly nothing in writing. Nobody will come on camera. So I extend the offer. Once again, Air Canada, I would love to speak to you about this issue, but also about how your corporation deals with allegations of sexual assault and allegations of sexual assault that involve your own crew members. My name is Natalie Sady. Please make sure to like, comment, and share this story. And of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.